Happy Friday to everyone. Welcome into a live edition of Betting Weekly Hardball. Starting a couple minutes late. We want to keep you all sort of waiting for us. I am Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper. And we've been on a roll lately. Yesterday, Wes and I each went 2-0, so a nice 4-0 performance for the show on the abbreviated Thursday card. But fortunately, I didn't jinx my run I've been on. So now 12-1 in my last six hardball shows. So very fired up for that. We even have cool graphics made. A little Nerfy was involved as well. And that's the beauty of some of this stuff. So you get hot, you want to ride the hot streak. And it just so happened Adam the Bull did a nice job being on vacation. And I had the runway this week. So the stars were aligned, Albert.
No, that's awesome. 12-1 is amazing. I think Sarah and I are 4-0 in the W. So if you combine the four of us, we're 16-1 this week, which is incredible to think about.
Yeah, the loan that is incredible, and I'm on the WNBA show with Wes coming up, so and I like some plays tonight. But the one loss was a first five under with the Diamondbacks, and it was 1-0 in the third, and then Arizona put up a big number. So that happens. I guess that's not a bad beat. Third inning's not the fifth inning. But anyways, we turned the page. You're only as good as your last wager, as the old adage says, or maybe the new adage I just made up. But just a reminder, if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips, and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. We always want you to join the conversation, get involved, ask comments, questions, games you like. We have some people chiming in here. Amish farmer hungover question. Um, you know, no, we had some tech issues. I don't know if you can tell, but my camera is not as good as it was earlier in the week. So maybe that's a sign of what's going on. But it's good that everyone's ready for some action. Yeah. So sometimes we start a couple minutes late. We want to get all our ducks in a row, so to speak. But we do have a game coming up in about 13 minutes from now. North side of Chicago at Wrigley Field, Cubs hosting the lowly Pirates. Pittsburgh obviously been in a tailspin. They've lost five straight. Chicago just got beat up a little bit in Toronto, but because Horton was on the mound, he's unhittable. So at least they salvaged that. And so now Ray's on the bump for the Cubbies. They are sizable favorites at Bet Rivers, minus 215, over under 8.5. Albert, do you have a play on this?
No read for me. You mentioned it. The Pirates are struggling. Paul Skeens couldn't even, get them back to the W column. They lost 14-0 the game Paul Skeens started 2 games ago. So this is not a time to back the Pirates, but I would say are on the side of caution when it comes to the Cubs because although they've had a great year up to this point, they've actually been playing mediocre baseball since the All-Star break. They're 4-6 in their last 10. The underdog has hit 8 times in those 10 games. So their offense is struggling. This is not a team that I would want to back, especially at that number. And I don't like it when the starter for the Cubs is going up against basically a bullpen guy for the Pirates. I just feel like there's no real edge there because obviously the numbers are all going to point towards the Cubs, towards the starter, but I just can't put my well-earned money on that big of a price.
Yeah, you mentioned the unders for Chicago in the last 10. How about this entire month? Chicago is 1-10-1 to the over. So 10-1-1 to the under. So Pirates bats, they're not overwhelming. I guess the question in this game, who's pitching for Pittsburgh? It's Ashcraft. Braxton Ashcraft. How good is this guy? Well, he's basically a pseudo opener. He's only gone a couple innings,
Mhm.
between 1 and 3 innings each of his last 7, 8 starts. And I'm assuming they're starts as I look at, but when you have this Pirates lineup, the first thing that thinks of is Nerfy, especially with the Cubs lineup not delivering. I just don't know if I can trust this guy who's really just sort of a band-aid on this bad pitching. This could be a game where the Cubs break out, but I also don't, you don't want to. It's a phrase I heard for the first time in my life this year, and I love it. It's catch the falling knife. Like, why would I bet over on a Cubs thing just let it keep riding the unders? But if I had enough measurables with Ashcraft and things like that, I'd be looking at under 8.5 because I'm not expecting much from the Pirates. So this could be a 6-1 game kind of thing.
I think that's a very important lesson for bettors, not only new bettors, but also, season long veterans, professional bettors. Like, just because you want to quote unquote outsmart the market or buy low on a team, the Cubs that are struggling, it doesn't mean you have to do it every single time. And so I would definitely lay off of this, but this is could be a potential live game. Let's say the Pirates get up 1-0 or something. I fully expect the Cubs at home to make up that one run. I don't think one run is going to be enough to win this game. So those are, potential opportunities that I would look into live betting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think last week Pirates got to Woodruff, so they're capable of scoring. But you're right. Maybe they score in the top of the first, and we'll have a live wager on this very show as that game starts in less than 10 minutes. Let's look ahead to some late games. We definitely have some compelling matchups from a baseball fan perspective. Forget the betting angle. The Milwaukee Brewers have won 12 straight games. That is really just incredible. This team out of nowhere is over 30 games above 500, and they have Nick Martinez on the bump. Excuse me, that's who's going for the Reds as the Brewers are in Cincinnati, but we don't know who the Brewers listed starter is. At least I don't, but they're still minus a buck fifth, 43 favorites. That number's come down a little bit at Bet Rivers. Chris Macera, who's often on the show, just does not like to bet in win streaks and things like that. And I agree. Like, there's no reason to bet into this Brewers team, especially with Cincinnati and only getting plus 123. I want no part of that. But this Brewers lineup is not that special, all things considered. They don't crush the ball, they don't have a bunch of big bats. They're not an intimidating lineup, but they just win. And facing the Reds, who are capable of just losing, although the Reds have been respectable this year, especially at home, I just feel the numbers right, but there's some overthinking in here. Is like, should we just be firing on the Brewers every day?
That's interesting because as of last night, Miz was supposed to be starting today. So something must
Okay.
have happened with him overnight. The fact that it's still to be determined is interesting. Not only are the Brewers on a 12-game winning streak, Doug, 13, by the way, would set the new franchise record. It's a long, long-term franchise, and 13 would be a new record for them. But they are 37-9 in their last 46 games. That's well over 80%. If you win 80% of your baseball games, Doug, you're in the stratosphere that it's pretty much World Series or bust at this point for this team. And the great thing, in my opinion, as a fan, is Doug is right. Like, there's no truly any superstars. There's no box office names on this team. It's just a very deep team that's very well coached and gets the right hits at the right time. And so I like Milwaukee. I'm For this game in particular, we got to wait until who they name the starter is. But I like Milwaukee's chances for the future because everyone's going to be looking to the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Mets, even though they've been struggling as of late, the Padres. But the Brewers, they're going to be a really tough team to beat 4 out of 7 games.
We'll get to the Dodgers in the next game, but the Brewers right now plus 400 at Bet Rivers to win the National League pennant. They're the third favorite behind the Dodgers and the Phillies. Don't you think it's buying at the top of the market if we buy it now? But I guess you're saying be careful fading them come playoff time. This is a team that's not just a regular season wonder.
Yeah, that it's latter, right? Because the last few years has always been about the big teams, the Dodgers and the Phillies, and there's a reason why these teams don't make the World Series every year. Of course, they are contending, they are in the postseason, but it's just really hard to win multiple series in a row, especially in baseball when so many things have to fall your way. And the Dodgers right now, from a pitching perspective, health wise, I just don't think there's enough horses there to beat these teams. And the teams, these small market teams that no one really thinks about when it comes to baseball, they're the ones, in my opinion, that are always in the World Series more than these big teams.
Yeah, and it's baseball, right? We had the D-backs face the Rangers a couple years ago. Yes, last year was Dodgers Yankees, but for the most part, I mean, look, LA was down 2-1 in San Diego in the first round. The year they won it in the bubble, they were down 3-1, I want to say, to the Braves. So it's not a foregone conclusion. This isn't the old school NBA where only 2 teams or 3 teams can win it all. This is certainly crazy stuff happens. And maybe the team that's going to go to the World Series from one of these leagues hasn't even got hot yet, right? Cardinals have made runs late, Rangers, over a decade ago. So maybe there's these teams lying in the weeds, so to speak. But no play for us, even on the white hot Milwaukee Brewers. who are only minus 143 right now at Bet Rivers. There's some cool promotions going on for Sunday. Players can log in each Sunday of the promotional period for a 33% profit boost to use on any Sunday night baseball same game parlay. And this Sunday, it's in Williamsport. So, really cool atmosphere. The Mets are playing. So, go check that out come Sunday. Obviously, our next show is not till Monday. I mentioned that we'll talk about the Dodgers. Let's talk about the second place LA Dodgers, who remarkably have been in the collapse while the Padres have caught them and passed them. With Kershaw on the bump, Dodgers are minus 190 with the Padres in town. So it's back to back weekends. Dodgers and Padres are playing for the final time this year. So this game is at Chavez Ravine, over under 9.5. The under is juiced to minus 122. Now, Kershaw's been a lot better than I thought he'd be, just where he is in his career. This game on MLB Network. So, for those of you on the East Coast or Midwest want to stay up late and watch some baseball, should be great atmosphere. I think the atmosphere in San Diego is a little better just because they're the little brother, so to speak, trying to punch up. But Dodgers fans will be legit tonight. I actually think the Dodgers are going to beat them. I do. Their pitching was shaky, but I think dare I say, the Angels lineup, who just swept the Dodgers for the second time. I actually think it's better than the Padres lineup.
Oh,
Um,
wow, you are
yeah,
throwing
well,
shots. You're throwing shots at San Diego today.
the Angels lineup is feast. No, well, I said their home crowd's going to be better the next weekend, but I,
But you
I,
also said that with the caveat of little brother.
right, that is true. The Dodgers have won every division except for the one year the Giants have over the last 15 years. This that Angels lineup has pop, man, and they feast or famine, and when they're going, they're going. The Padres have some loose holes in some of that lineup, and even Machado is not having the year he should. So I actually think Kershaw. I just don't know who's pitching for San Diego. I'm not. Let me put it this way: I'm not in a rush to lay $1.90. The bullpen's shot. If I bet this game on the Dodgers, it's going to be first five, maybe a run line first five, because I think there's going to be an alternate line kind of thing value. And the alternate line yesterday actually hit. It was the Guardians, but I didn't bet it. But somebody in my Twitter said that they did, and they got there. I think the Dodgers bats are kind of getting warm. I think they got warm a little bit the last 2 days against the Halos.
That's actually gonna be my official play today is first 5 Dodgers. I know we don't know the starter yet for
Yes.
the Padres, but this is a typical bounce back spot for a team that has championship aspirations. Doug mentioned it. The Angels went 6-0 against the Dodgers this year. If you go back to last year, it's actually 7 straight wins against the Dodgers. And I think all this negative news, they've lost 4 straight, 5 of the last 7. Kershaw is old. All this kind of stuff is perfect. This is the narrative stuff that I focus on, that I like to back, because I think that's when you have the opportunity to buy low. Doug mentioned Kershaw has been playing or pitching a little better. He has been. Last 2 games, 6 innings pitched in both of them, gave up 5 and 7 hits respectively. Only 1 earned run in both games total. So he has been a lot better since the All-Star game. And I think, like I said, this is a bounce back opportunity, not only for the pitching staff and the bullpen, but those batters, right? And I said with Max Muncy back in the lineup, this offense is a lot better, and I think we'll see that tonight. I think the Dodgers, the stars will come back in line after this series. I think they're going to take 2 of 3 from San Diego.
Okay, so you're expecting a tie atop the division. Now, in the comments section, I swear Amish Farmer is like a producer here. He goes, if you like the Padres, like Chris and I do, would you have bet the Padres to win the series, which is plus 165? So there is a series bet. I also think it's worth discussing the futures market because on July 21st, Chris Massaro and I co-hosted this show. We said bet the plus 1800 price on the Padres to win the NL West. And they've caught them and passed them, and it's like minus 330 for the Dodgers. So would you lock in a profit? I think in these kind of situations, and Albert, I want you to weigh in next. I think it depends on the money. If you have like not life-changing money, but a significant amount, then I think locking in a profit you can't go wrong with. No one's going to ever squander you, but it depends on the money and then where you are in your own financial world. But you take plus 1800. Did you take it to lock in a profit? Did you put like 0.1 unit to take a flyer? Well, if it's just a flyer, let it ride. Um, last weekend of the year, maybe you can play out of it, take a reverse run line plus 1.5 and try to scoop both. But it's minus 182 for the Dodgers. You obviously can lock in a really nice profit, and it's not one or the other. It's not binary. Okay. You can do half, you can secure your original bet. Let's say you do $10 to win 180. Well, you can lay 182. You can lay 1820 to get at least get your money back. And then it's all prop. Like you can chop it up, right? Do 50% of your bet. It doesn't have to be all or nothing and basically a version of a cash out, right? You can do other things. How would you approach sort of these types of situations of hedging when you have such an advantage?
Yeah, so I never hedge unless there's a lot of money involved, right? Maybe not even life changing, but if we're getting high three digits, four digits, where you could have a really nice weekend in Vegas, if you will. I think that's when you have to think smarter about going all or nothing. In this case, if you were to get 1800 on the Padres, I probably would have put like $100 down, right, to win uh 1800. I want the original bet times 2. So I would bet, 360 here to win. What is that? Sorry, I would bet.
364 to win
Yep,
200 or whatever.
yep, exactly.
Yeah, I get it. And also depends. You can also handicap the rest of the year. Like for example, this Amish farmer was asking about the division odds. So the rest of the weekend, I mean, Dodgers have Blake Snell going tomorrow, and then Glass going on Sunday. Uh, Padres have Darvish on Sunday. Dylan Cease tomorrow. So um, maybe you like the Padres or the Dodgers this weekend. Maybe things like that. Bet on them to win this year. There's different sort of micro hedging you can do, but think about it. Whenever you make a wager, this goes for game wagers because it's about live betting. When you made that plus 1800, you're basically betting that I can't get better than plus 1800 tomorrow. You're just betting like the next in a baseball game like the Cubs. We were talking about 215. That means you think the Pirates aren't going to score in the first inning because then that minus 215 is going to go to 240. So you're really just it's about segments of the game or segments of the season. So if you were just betting, it doesn't have to be the actual bet you made. You're just betting plus 1800 that the market's going to come down. That's all you're betting. Now, this point forward, you're now making a wager, indirectly or directly that who's going to win the division. Because if you make it on the pot, if you don't do anything, you're essentially betting on the Padres. Like that plus 1800, it's just like a real estate that it's paper money right now. It goes up, it goes down, Bitcoin, whatever you want to say. That value is on paper, and you're making a decision, i.e., betting on what's going to happen from this point forward. Because if you don't hedge, that means you're banking on the Padres to win the division, and that's just the way to think about it. Does that make sense? I don't know if I've been too in the weeds there.
No, it does, and I think the other mind shift that people have to change about, futures, I look at it as a portfolio. Let's say you have, a stock assets, assets of stocks that are part of your portfolio. You're not going to be all in on one bet. So if you're on the Padres plus 1800 and you have amazing CLV now, right? The 15th of August, this is an opportunity for you to add other bets, in my opinion, to build that portfolio. So now you'll have three or four other bets that are around 1500 or 2500, whatever the long shot odds are. I think the key is just like you still have to make an educated decision, but you want to hit at least one or one and a half of those, and then you're in the profits no matter what.
And I'll say this: let's say early in the season you bet both the Padres and the Giants in the futures market, and the Giants are done or whatever, you have to add that into your math. So if you bet like $50 on each and it's 50 to win 900 or on the Padres at 18 to 1, you really bet 100 on one of those teams to win the division at plus 900. I mean, because you've risked 100 because only one can cash, right? Because they're in the same division. So you've really risked 100 to win 900 on one of those two teams. You created your own prop. So factor that into your math. Don't just pick out the winner. It's like the March Madness people who said, "Oh, I had that 10 seed going to Sweet 16." And well, you also had the three other ones that did not. So let's not forget about that. That's all part of the math. Hey, we have a lot of promotions here at Bet Rivers. I mentioned the one on Sunday. It's also Bat Flip Friday at Bet Rivers. Opt in and place a $10 wager on any player to hit a home run, and you'll receive a profit boost of up to 100%. See the Bet Rivers app for full details. Let's keep it moving here. Well, those are two big games, obviously high profile games, but Phillies are the second favorite, as I mentioned, in the NL at plus 350. They got Zach Wheeler, their workhorse, on the bump as they face the Nationals in the nation's capital. Mackenzie Gore on the bump. I backed him against Verlander recently because Verlander I wanted to fade. Well, the over-under's 8 because Wheeler's an absolute beast most of the time. He can get touched up, so that gives me a little pause. But Gore's can be good, but Wheeler hasn't been as sharp as he has been all year. So I cannot lay this kind of lumber at $1.80.
Yeah, and plus Mackenzie Gore, like you mentioned, he's coming off a game where I think he was a plus 150 dog, and the Nationals won 8-0 against the Giants. So that's one of the things I like to look at the recent history of pitchers, not only how they did, but the outcome of each of those games. And I know as we move further into analytics in baseball, we get away from pitcher wins, but I still include it in a lot of my analysis because I think it helps me determine whether a bad pitcher can win 2 straight games in a row, right? Whether the team can win 2 straight games in a row. So, uh, that's me of saying I wouldn't back the Nationals here. The Phillies are also coming off, I think, 2 straight losses, or maybe no,
Right.
3 straight losses. Yeah, they lost 3 straight because they lost to the Nationals last night. So I think Phillies are gonna come out. I think they are one of those Cinderella teams, even though they're a big market, high salary. But with Schwarber and how clutch he is towards the end of the games, like I can never rule this team out. So I actually like the Phillies tonight. It's just a little too expensive for me. I'm gonna keep it, with the Dodgers first five, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies, win 7-0 in this game.
Well, yeah, I mean, Wheeler's not going to be terrible, right? And we kind of had this sort of dilemma yesterday with Skubal on the bump for Detroit. He's been touched up his last two games. In his last two starts, I believe I'm going off memory, he had 7 earned runs allowed combined. And I was like, oh, is this a get right spot against this makeshift Twins lineup? Well, Minnesota jumped on him 3-0. Now, Tigers came back and won in extras. But Wheeler hasn't been vintage Wheeler, and the money line is priced as if it's vintage Zach Wheeler. And there's just no guarantee he's going to bounce back. And frankly, Nats have a couple impressive bats in the lineup. So I feel like the price is right. You got to be careful laying $1.80, $1.70 because you got to win a lot. Like I have a high success rate to make that worthwhile. So I mean, you got to win 2 out of 3, right? You got to win 2 out of 3 $1.80s in order for it to be profitable. And even then, it's only marginally profitable. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's why you can't look at it as one wager. It's like the likelihood of this hit. So be careful out there laying $1.80. But you said that's your lean. I agree, but I wish Wheeler was in perfect form. Updating game we got going on. Nerfy's almost going to cash. Pirates go in order at the top of the first, bottom of the first. Ashcraft, 2 batters, 2 strikeouts. So their Cubbies are down to the last out. If you have the Nerfy, you are looking real good. So that's exciting because we could have done that and cashed a bet here on the show, but we did not. You haven't cashed a lot of bets betting on the New York Mets. How about 1-9 in their last 10, 2-13 in their last 15? They've been an absolute disaster. And they had the worst loss of the season on Wednesday when they were up 6-0 to the Braves at home and blow it. Well, now the Mets welcome the Seattle Mariners to town. This is the game that's Sunday Night Baseball in Williamsport. Luis Castillo on the bump for Seattle. Small dog here against Sean Manaea. Mets begin the day 5 games back of Philly. They were in first place. That's not the case anymore. With this Mariners, I mean, they lost in Baltimore yesterday, but I think the Mariners are past for me with Manaea against Luis Castillo.
Yeah, I used to be such a big Manea fan, but he's fallen off a cliff, let's be honest, the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
If you look at him, recent history, he's only 1-4 in the last 5 starts. His ERA is sitting around 4.5, 4.5. He barely gets to 5 innings. In his last 5 starts, he's only averaged 4 and 2/3 innings, about 81 pitches in those outings. So he is not, the starter that he used to be. And Seattle now coming in off a 2-game, losing streak against the Orioles there. This is a potential bounce back, but Both teams, right? You mentioned it. The Mets with all that talent, they were in first place just 2 weeks ago, and now they're 1-9 in the last 10. I think they're gonna get hot again. I do believe in this talent. I do believe in this team. I think Steve Cohen mentioned this is a valley for us. So he said that he's gonna be attending the games this weekend. I don't know if that's gonna do
Ooh.
anything, but the fact that the owner is out there watching his players play is a little interesting. But I do believe in this team. So from a futures market, Doug, if you want to pull up those odds, I kind of like the Mets here. I think there's some value, whether it's to win, the National League or even win the whole thing, because I do like their talent a lot.
Well, they're right now decent odds. They're the 6th favorite at plus 900 behind the Cubs, Padres, Brewers, Phillies, and Dodgers.
Yeah.
I I see what you're saying because you want to buy the dip always. And the lineup is imposing for most of the time, but they're just not hitting right now. So right now, I'm going to take Seattle. I'm back in the Mariners plus 102 here. I think there's this lineup's pretty good. Now, Cal Rowley had the day off yesterday. He did pinch hit in the ninth, I want to say, with guys on, and they made a little noise in the ninth. But for the most part, I just have to go with the starting pitcher advantage with the Mariners and Luis Castillo against Manea, especially when the Mets aren't playing well. I like the leadership of the Mets with Lindor. He's a really likable guy, and I think they can, new team in town, kind of clean slate. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets won, but I got to take the pitching edge here with Castillo. And I like this Mariners. This Mariners team wants to get back on track. You mentioned they lost the last two games in Baltimore. I think this lineup would be good. It was good to give Rowley the day off. I think this lineup with the additions they made at the deadline is going to be impressive. So I'll roll with Seattle as my first official play at plus 102.
And the Mariners have
Okay.
been playing a lot better as of late. I know they're off a
Yeah.
2-game losing streak, but getting Suarez back, they're only, I think, 1.5 games behind Houston for that division. So they're right there in the thick of things. If they don't win the division, they are leading the wild card. So it's a very solid team.
Yeah, I agree. I like this team a lot. I think they made the necessary moves, and the lineup. There's really no holes. Maybe bottom of the lineup there is, but I mean, just with the Rosarena at the top, and then it gets into some legit bats. I think they can get to this Mets team. I think we see a high scoring thing. I was looking at some alternate lines like Mariners minus 1.5 at plus 165. So if you want to throw like maybe 10% of your bet on that, and then the other on Mariners plus 02, I like that kind of stuff because I think this game could get away from the Mets. There's no reason that this would slow down, so to speak. So they get through the first inning unscathed, both pitchers. We got the nerfy Cashes. We're now in the top of the second, scoreless on the north side of Chicago. We've got another game involving a pitcher that hasn't been sharp, an ace. I mentioned Scooble. Yeah, for yesterday. Wheeler today. Also today, Zach DeGrom going for the Rangers and three shaky or even bad starts in a row for the righty. And they're in Toronto facing Chris Bassett. Rangers are slight favorites, but I agree. This thing's more of a pick 'em. I would lean to the Blue Jays, man. DeGrom, as much as I love him, he's not vintage DeGrom when he was unhittable. Bassett's good enough. And this Toronto lineup, I was on him yesterday as my 1-2 place. I thought they'd get to Matthew Boyd more than they did. Thankfully, Vladdy went yard. I think the Blue Jays offense is ready to break out. I'd look at over 7.5 as well. I'm holding my powder here. No play officially, but I lean to the home team and the over. What about you?
So this is going to be my second play of the day. Call me a homer, but I do like Texas. I think
Okay.
Jacob DeGrom, you mentioned it. I would venture to say Uvalde is the ace on the Rangers
Yeah.
right now, just because of what he's done this season, quietly having one of his best years. And then DeGrom started off really strong this season, but fatigue, arm fatigue, and he's up there in age as well. So he has struggled, even though he's thrown 91, 95, and 99 pitches in the last three starts. We always expect him, we as in the Rangers always expect him to be the cash cow, the workhorse, and throw 100 pitches. But Doug mentioned it. He's given up 5, 5, and 3 earned runs in the last 3 games. This is a Toronto lineup that is hitting the ball really well, and they're hitting clutch hits as well at the end of the games, especially in Toronto. It's going to be tough, but I think this is why you pay for an ace, and I think DeGrom is going to kind of you know, bring things back into alignment. I don't think Texas is going to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, they've had a really bad, last 10 games. I think they're back down to 500. They have to play really, really amazing baseball just to catch the wild card teams in the AL. So I don't see that happening. But I do think for one night, I think they're going to upset Toronto tonight.
Well, the betting market would agree that Evaldi's the ace. He's 15 to 1 to win the American League Cy Young, while Degrom is 22 to 1. So lower odds there. Speaking of the Cy Young, Skubal's odds have been dipping because he's been shaky lately. He's only minus 375 now. He was way higher. Crochet got touched up in his last outing. Is there any value anywhere for the American League Cy Young? Because all these pitchers have been limping of late. Framber Valdez got touched up. Max
Yeah.
Fried hasn't been the same since the All-Star break. Even Hunter Brown's been human. We know about DeGrom. Like, is Drew Rasmussen the guy to bet? Is Luis Castillo, who goes tonight, 45 to 1? Is someone out there we should be betting on at lofty odds?
I would say no, but I'm also not a gambling guy to that extent, right? I like to find edges. I like to find soft spots, and it's hard to find advantages when you're going to back, quote unquote aces at such expensive numbers. I think you'll have to be very prudent in the way you find situational spots. I think tonight Degrom is that, and because I believe in that, that's why I'm going to put my money in it. But um, man, it's tough out there because I think the trade deadline this year really, delegated the haves and the have-nots. And the teams that are the haves right now, Doug, their hitting lineups are really, really good, 1 through 9. You mentioned Seattle having a soft spot at the end of, their lineup. That's normal. Like every team should have
Yeah,
like
sure, of
deep
course.
hitters at, 7, 8, 9. But Seattle, you can make a case that 1 through 9, they're all pretty scary. So, there's no, free innings for these aces, and I think they're starting to feel that now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Two games I want to get to that I think are really compelling. We'll start in Boston with Fenway Park. Red Sox and Marlins, teams that have aspirations for the postseason in the wild card race. Lucas Giolito going for Beantown at minus $1.67, over under of 9. A couple months ago on this very show, I said, I wish the Marlins weren't so far back. I think they can make a run. And everyone laughed, and then they went on that tear, but they've come back to earth recently. And then Alcantara just really is that bad and that shaky. I think the value here is on the Red Sox, but I do like the Marlins lineup a lot. 167, like I said a couple minutes ago, you got to win a lot of these. You got to win 2 out of 3 at this price just to lock in a small profit. Just think about that, winning 2 out of 3 at prices like this. So, my play here is, for the first time in the history of the show, at least to my knowledge, we have a Yerfie, not a Nerfie, a Yerfie. I'm going yes, first run inning at minus 118 is my second official play. Lucas Giolito, really bad first inning ERA, like 3.5, kind of bad. And then he settles down and has pitched really well this year. Now, some of that was skewed by, I think, a terrible first inning, like 7 earned in 1 start. But aside from that, he just doesn't settle down. And I like this Marlins lineup a lot. And if I don't get in the top of the first, I got Alcantara against the top of the Red Sox lineup in that Fenway Park with the Green Monster. I think we can, bloop in a blast, bloop in a monster double, something like that. I think $1.18. I think we can get there with both pitchers kind of shaky in the first inning.
Yeah, the first thing I look for when, someone says Yerfie, actually Nerfy and Yerfie is the weather, right? So we know it's gonna be clear tonight. The wind is negligible at best. I think it's like 4 or 5 miles per hour crosswind. So it's not gonna help or hurt these players and these balls. So I agree with you. I think Yerfie is a good look here. I also lean the Red Sox here, but again, too expensive for my taste. If I was running a little more hot like Doug, who's 12-1, I would be a little more risky when it comes to some of these bets. But I've been middle of the pack. I've been treading water when it comes to MLB, and so I'm really just trying to pick my spots. Love to go 2-0 tonight with Rangers and Dodgers first 5, but I do lean the Red Sox tonight because it's a great bounce back opportunity for them. And the Red Sox, like I mentioned, they're in that wild card battle, and this is a must win. They've lost the last 2 series, 2-1 and 2-1. So I think this is pretty much a must-win series for them at home.
They're a machine at home. That's what I was gonna say. They really hit well, and the crowd puts pressure on opposing pitchers. So we'll see if Alcantara can handle himself. And look at me, I'm not trying to stat pad. Took a plus 103 and a minus 118. None of these huge juice. The 12-1 record was not a lot of juice in that run. So I don't want to pull a muscle patting myself on the back, but I will say there's some integrity going on here. Final game that I want to discuss because frankly, I think every show in baseball should discuss this team, the Colorado Rockies. They've just been terrible this year. They're against the money line. They've been the worst in all of baseball in terms of losing. Over under of 12. Yesterday was 12 and a half, got to 13, and then landed, I think 8-2 or 8-3 was the final. Uh, Worst pitchers today. So yesterday, one of my two plays was Diamondbacks run line. I didn't want to overthink it. Huge pitching edge. D-backs lineup. They've owned the Rockies. In the last 2 weeks, they've played them at home and on the road. They've won 6 of 7 meetings, and they swept the 3-game set recently at home. This is game 2 of a series. Fact going for Arizona. Gordon going for the Rockies, and this Colorado team is pitiful. If anything, I would do run line with Arizona, but for some reason, I'm not going to. I probably should add a third game, but I'm going to pass. What about you?
I think the gut is important, Doug, when we're talking about betting. So the fact that you were already on run line last night, you don't feel like it's going to hit back to back nights. That's a gut feeling. I think that's strong. But I think it should be an easy run line. I'm not going to play it either. But I mean, if you look at Tanner Gordon, he has, let me count this up, 31 hits in his last 3 games. Like if you're going to give up 10 hits a game pretty much in Colorado, you're going to give up 8 to 10 runs, right? Just because of that elevation, just because of, the walks that you're going to have as well. So I would say Diamondbacks run line or nothing at all. I would also be on the over, even though it didn't hit last night. I think the over is safe, or maybe a Diamondbacks team total over, because I do expect a lot of runs. And the fact that they just played last night in this same environment is going to be more beneficial to the hitters than the pitchers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm playing with some numbers here. Gosh, D-backs -2 is -107. I need the half run, so I'll pay for it. So let's go official third play. D-backs run line -1.5, -130. Gosh. But again, you got the road team, better pitcher, better lineup. It really should be kind of a 7-3 game. And to your point, maybe the over, maybe 10-4, 10-3. The Rockies are not good, and I still think there's value. I'm the betting bully. I got to live up to my nickname, so I'll do it. So 3 plays for me on this show as we look to stay hot. And Albert, you have the 2 that you mentioned. Let's close the week strong. It's been a great week for us here on Betting Weekly Hardball. Also, Betting Weekly Fast Break, which is a little over 15 minutes away, top of the hour. Wes Reynolds is in the house, and we'll try to go 4-0 like we did yesterday in baseball. And we'll do that 5 games in the W tonight. Really good card, and we'll look ahead to tomorrow's Liberty Lynx game as well. A lot of good stuff. But Albert, any parting shots here?
No, let's continue this hot streak into the weekend. I'm excited for it. And then I'll see you next week in Vegas. So looking forward to that
That's
as well.
right. Looking forward to that. So good stuff. And for Albert Nguyen and everyone else behind the scenes who does all the heavy lifting with the graphics, producing, and directing, I'm Doug Kezirian. Best of luck tonight and the rest of the weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday, but we also hope you join us top of the hour on Betting Weekly Fast Break.